We live in a time when innovation and creativity are the path to autonomy, success, and unlimited potential. But our education system is trapped in the industrial age. We are still being fed the story that job security equals freedom. For many of us, that just isn't good enough. Every week, I'm bringing you the stories and experiences of entrepreneurs who don't accept the narrative that there is only one path to success. Their entrepreneurial journey is allowing them the freedom to prioritize both their businesses and their families. They are intentionally building a legacy to lead their family into a new era of innovation and growth. This is Our Modern Heritage Legacy Secrets, and I'm your host, Jody Chafee. All right, I want to welcome to the show Nick Fitzgerald, right? Fitzgerald.
Yep.
And Nick has always loved telling stories that touch people on an emotional level, whether watching the big screen, on stage, through the lens, or even in front of it. He has a way of connecting with audiences. For over 3 years now, Nick has been taught by master storytellers in several mediums. Now he uses those skills to help others find and tell their own stories. Welcome, Nick. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So this is awesome. So I've been hearing a lot about you ever since I went to FHL last year. and you know, being friends with Russell Brunson or whatever, you know, that it's like, but what I'm interested in is, you know, you found something that worked for you, this filming, this storytelling. And so can you tell me more about that? Like, how did you fall into this business?
Yeah. So I've always, since I was a little kid, had the hobby of making videos. Like I remember I'm a child of the 80s. So we had one of those like RCA shoulder camcorders, VHS tapes, all this stuff, and just making fun little videos with my friends. Like we'd do mock episodes of Cops and commercial, all sorts of fun stuff. And so I'd always had that hobby, but I never really thought that I could make a living with my creative abilities. I tried to be a musician for a few years and all sorts of different things, and I loved it, but I didn't think that you could make money because I tried and failed over and over and over. So I was doing the responsible thing that we all, you know, get a real job, you know, take care of your family, all those things. And I loved the people that I worked with, but I was so unfulfilled and I hated the work that I was actually doing. So it got to a point where in 2014, I was actually working as a financial advisor, and I was struggling that year because I was in a partnership that dissolved and I was trying to reboot my practice, and it was just really hard. And I wasn't going to hit my sales quota for the year, and I was terminated because of that at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, you know, I'm like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'm 35 years old at this point, you know, and asking myself that question again. So if you're listening and you're having those questions, they never stop. You're always going to be asking yourself that question, I've learned. But I started taking a hard look. I interviewed with other firms and different things, and I was just like, no, nothing feels right. And a couple of months before, I had helped one of my friends, that I knew from high school, do a submission video for The Biggest Loser. He was like 400 pounds. We did this whole thing. It was a lot of fun to do, and he just had tears streaming down his face watching his own story. And I was like, maybe I'm onto something here, you know? And so I said, you know, financially, we were in a bad spot at the end of 2014. We were living in the basement of a family member. You know, I made $15,000 on paper that year, you know, and we had just welcomed our youngest child at the beginning of that year. So it was just, we didn't have anywhere to go but up. So I said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of doing what I'm supposed to do, quote, air quotes, right? And I want to do what I want to do. And video was the thing that made me excited. So I started that, and I didn't even have a video camera of my own. I had to borrow one from my dad for a while until I had saved up enough money to buy one for myself. But I learned then that it was all about making the jump and having the belief in myself to do it, that I was worthy and worth making that investment and having that belief in myself, and just jump in and go. And I was like, I talked with my wife. She's super supportive. And I know we'll dive into the family dynamics later, but like we just said, we have nowhere to go but up. If I can put a couple of years of hard work into this and see what I can make, and then we'll reevaluate. And she was like, let's do it.
Wow.
That's how I got started.
That's awesome. I mean, I relate to so much of what you were saying, because it was like, if I could go back in time and talk to young Jody, I would say, you can be a singer, you can follow your dreams and do that art thing, and but it's like there was always this narrative that if you aren't at a quote unquote secure job, then you aren't really successful, or that you're gonna that's not a real job, right?
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating looking back and going, wait, why was that the narrative? This is so backwards now it seems very backwards to me, that it's like you can do anything really. And so, but do you ever wonder, like, as you going and when you were starting out, did you ever feel like, if your passion became your job, has that ever become something that you feel has kind of killed the passion at all? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is that something that, because of the stress on something that you are passionate about, has it, they say you should never do something that you're quote unquote passionate in, because then it becomes just another job. Has that
Right.
happened for you?
No, for me, it hasn't. That's the thing, that when you when you've really taken inventory of yourself, and whatever that takes to get to that mental state for you to really honestly evaluate and look at what you're passionate about, what drives you, why you want to do the things that you want to do, all those things. For me, there are days when it's not the most fun, or there are the stresses, because I have a family, I have a business, I hire contractors, and there's lots of moving parts, and then having
Yeah.
client meetings and all sorts of stuff that can add the stress. But for me, the ultimate payoff, yes, it's nice to get a check and have that literal payoff. But when I'm sitting next to a client in my office or in their office, and I'm showing them the end result of what we've collaborated on for over the last few weeks or months, and to again see tears streaming down their face, or see they're so excited and everything, that for me overcomes and overpowers any of the stresses and the times when you struggle. Because it's true, you're going to have those mornings when you wake up and the stresses, or all the things are on you, and you're just like, I want to pull the covers back over my head and go back to sleep. We all have those.
Yeah.
But every time that I deliver, and I see that reaction and the satisfaction, the fulfillment I get out of it outweighs the stress that I've ever had. So for me, it was all about truly finding what I wanted to do. And I didn't have that completely figured out right when I started. Like, I didn't start
Yeah.
2015, I'm going to do all these stories for businesses. I had that in mind, and that's what I started going. But then the path that led me to really be effective at it and give results through it was a lot different than I would have expected it to be. And, I learned along the way to develop and understand and accept that passion and the power that comes from getting results for
Yeah,
people.
yeah. So basically having that vision of the results, and maybe does it help if that you're kind of your own entity, so maybe you can pick and choose who you work with a little bit.
A
Maybe.
little, that does help at times, yes, where you can, when you start out, you pretty much, you take everyone that will
That's true.
possibly give you
That's true.
money because you need it. But you get to that point where you start to be able to pick and choose who or what you want to work on, which is super freeing in itself.
Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. So, I also, while you were describing your story, I was picturing my own situation, and like how when you have these little children at home depending on you, and you're going, holy crap, what do I do now? Type of thing. When you were milling this over and thinking, we can do this, I can do this, I can be independent, I can start my own business. How did your family play a role in your decision?
Oh man. So when I finally took that leap, I have 4 young kids, um, and my wife, I had changed jobs several times, career paths up until then, trying to find what I could get, where I would be valued and make the most money. I was chasing the paycheck basically. But
Yeah.
when I made that change and said, this is what I'm going to do, it was actually Christmas time, 2014, when I was wrapping some gifts on Christmas Eve. And the reality of how little we had at that time really, really hit me hard. And I ugly cried, and, all of that stuff. Because I just felt that weight of being a failure as a husband, as a father, providing for my family, because I worked really hard, but I still failed. And it was so deflating. But when I made that choice and I had the conversation with my wife saying, like, I want to be able to have and give you guys the things that I know that you want and that you deserve. You've put up with me and all my changes, and life hasn't gone according to plan so many times, but you've never nagged and never complained. You've always been supportive of me. And I just communicated that my desire was to be able to give them, not that I owed it to them, like they were keeping tabs of it, but I felt that obligation. And so I said, I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. And my wife, again, she's an angel in mortal's clothing, is just like, okay, if you feel that that's what we need to do, or if you feel that that's the way we should go, then I support you, and let's whatever I can do to help you do that. And so, you know, for me, that was the biggest thing, looking at my kids and seeing how innocent and perfect and funny they are, even though kids drive us crazy sometimes. And you're like, why did I think this was a good idea being a parent? But it all melts away with one moment when they just do something so adorable, right? But looking at them and wanting to be able to provide and give them the opportunities to make their own choices, follow an example, set an example to show them that they can do something if they want to. But, you know, to just let them know that they have choice and option and freedom to do what they truly in their heart of hearts want to do, and to not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So has your success, you know, do you see the narrative changing in your family around, you know, what success looks like? You know, how does that look for your family now?
Absolutely. I see that narrative changing. And it's funny, last night, actually, I was with my 12-year-old son. We were driving to soccer practice. I'm one of the assistant coaches for his comp soccer team. And we had this, he's finishing up the semester. He's in 7th grade junior high. And they did a project where they made an infomercial in one of his film and drama classes. And we were talking about, you know, infomercials. I'm like, what kinds of things did you do? Because I love marketing and sales and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And just hearing his perspective on things, and we just started talking about, you know, examples. I'm like, well, some of the things that I do with my clients, right? And I talk about what I'm doing, and there's just an added interest, you know, in what I do. And I see them grabbing onto little nuggets of it here and there, where they get a little business idea, like, I want to earn some money. What are some things I can do? Instead of they're asking those questions instead of saying, hey, Dad, can I have $10 to go get the battle pass on Fortnite, or, you know, whatever it might be that they want to get. And so that has been huge. But then also seeing them take an interest in their creativity. Like, I see them writing stories in their notebooks, or they made some little logo video intros. They found a place where they could do some cool things, and they spent like 2 days on my computer just like making all sorts of fun stuff. So it's cool to be able to see them have fun, and then I just plant that seed, be like, hey, you get really good at this, you've done some awesome stuff, like you can help other people do that for themselves because they don't have that expertise, and they'll pay you for it. And just to introduce those concepts has been a lot of fun, and I've seen them grasp onto it.
I love that. I love that. You know, because it's like we grew up with this whole narrative, like you need to get good grades and go to college and then check those boxes and everything's going to be okay. And it's like, but we never were told what purpose it had, right? Like at least for me, I mean, it was like, just need a marketable degree and then you'll be okay. And it's like, but what does marketable mean? What is that? But, you know, equipping your kids with this new, you know, perspective is like, whatever they're reaching for the future has more meaning and purpose in my perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Like it's just fun to see, because I was never a fan of school. I struggled. I loved the social aspect of school, and I loved certain subjects, but like there were others I would, even in high school, I would like wake up in the morning sometimes like and cry because I just dreaded going to school because of what was going to happen in this class or whatever. And I see that in my kids, and I communicated it, but at the same time, it's kind of a catch-22 when I share those things and my point of view on those things are important depending on what you want to do, but also there's other options. Like my kids try to, like, you know, well, you don't think that, you know, they try and turn it against you a little bit, but that's how kids Now we're just looking for a way to get what they
We don't
want.
have to go to school, right?
Yeah, like you didn't finish your degree, that kind of thing. Like, what is it? Why do I have to go? It's just one day, all that kind of stuff. But again, letting them know that there are different options and choices that they have, and that if they want to get a degree and do whatever that degree does, then I totally support them, and they know that. But if they want to do something that doesn't necessitate having a piece of paper that says you know what you're doing, they can also make a living doing that, right? And so it's been fun to show that over the last, it's been 4 years now since I fully jumped in, and to see it actually happening and them grasping onto it and seeing the results too has been awesome as a husband and a father to see.
So as a concluding question for this segment, one of the things I like to ask my guests is, through this experience and the things that you're building and your family, what is the legacy that you are building and the legacy you'd like to leave?
Oh man, that's the legacy that I'm building right now, especially, is overcoming challenges and obstacles as they come. Anytime you level up, whether that's income or success or however you define that, new challenges come. They don't just disappear. They just come in a different box. And to be able to, one, show that hard work pays off, that persistence is the key. The legacy that I'm building is, that's a really good question. I haven't thought this deep about it for a while, but like that, if you have the belief in yourself and you feel that like in your heart of hearts, like I always say, don't let your mind talk your heart out of doing something. When you feel that you need to do something, it's worth spending the time to investigate it. And it might not turn into something that you actionably do, but you'll learn a lot about yourself and about your relationship to God or the universe, or however you define it in that. But when you follow your heart and do what you feel you should, nothing bad ever happens. Like nothing terrible. It leads you down the right path. Still, there will be challenges, but you can overcome them by listening to your instincts, and your heart will never lead you astray. So I want to build that legacy that empowers people to embrace that and listen to that inner voice, because that's what's going to lead you to where you can have the most impact and influence and change lives, not only yours and your families, but countless others that you come in contact with and the lives that they impact as well. And so the legacy is that you should do it. If you feel you should do something, do it. And don't hesitate. Do it as soon as you possibly can, and good things will happen. And to not feel guilty about charging people for that and providing value in that exchange. Like so many times, if you're a servant heart like I am, I love to give and help people. For the longest time, I felt guilty at being like, yeah, I can totally do this for you, and getting all excited and be like, but it's going to cost money, like I would avoid that. To not have fear or guilt about asking for money for the value you provide, but then most importantly, just to take the steps and follow what your heart tells you, and you'll never go wrong. That's what I want, ultimately from what I do to teach.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Nick. That's so awesome. And thanks for being here. We're going to go on to the second segment of the interview. But before we do, where can my audience find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all of the social medias, right? Nick Fitzgerald on Facebook, and it's Wee Man Fitz on Instagram. That's a little joke because I literally am 6'9", and I lived in Scotland for a couple years as a missionary for my church, and so all the people jokingly called me Wee Man, right? And then if you go to friendlygiantfilms.com, you can learn and see more about my philosophy on storytelling and how to use videos and all that kind of stuff within it. So yeah, go check them out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. But I have to tell you that this is just the beginning. There is more to this episode inside of my Facebook group. I hope that you'll go and request to join that community because it's awesome. There's more podcast content that's exclusive to the group. There's also giveaways, live Q&As, and you can come and ask questions and take part in this awesome community. So please come and request to join at facebook.com/groups/familyculture strategies. You can also find my page on Facebook at facebook.com/familyculturepodcast. And I'm at Instagram in the same handle, Family Culture Podcast. So I hope you'll come and follow me there and join in this movement to create an intentional family culture around being entrepreneurial and integrating and prioritizing your family as you grow your business. So come and join me there. I hope to see you there. You can also come find my website at ourmodernheritage.com. Thank you so much. And remember that if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.